I spent this week travelling with a gorilla through central London. Now that might sound absolutely crazy, but it was one of the best weeks of my entire life. Hi, I'm Joseph, and I am a professional actor and puppeteer from London. I have been in the puppet world for a long, long time now, and when I say a long time, maybe 3 years. It all started when I graduated drama school and I went straight into a show called In the Night Garden Live, which is based off a popular TV show here in the UK. And that show is made up of completely puppets. It's so, so beautiful. And after that show, I made sure I got some proper training in puppetry at Little Angel Theatre. And then I was a part of the puppetry team on Beetlejuice Beetlejuice. So puppets are just wonderful things. And to have an opportunity to work with new puppets is something I couldn't pass. I think puppets can be an extension of the human form. They can create things that us as humans can't. And I think they're a brilliant way. And I think, especially with animals, it's the future. Puppets, animals, theatre. So this week I was with The Herds, and The Herds is a brand new piece by The Walk Productions. They're the same company that did Little Amal a few years ago, and this time The Herds is here to promote climate change. It is a herd of animal puppets which are made from wood and cardboard, and they're travelling from the Congo all the way up to the Arctic Circle over a 9-week period, 20,000 kilometres. It's a huge task, but they're doing it and it's looking phenomenal. These puppets are made by Yakwanda and they're just gorgeous. I did actually manage to get my hands on one of the puppet heads, which I will show you now. Even I don't know how I got my hands on this. I feel so, so lucky, but I'm excited to show you all how they're made. Everything comes as a blueprint plan, and then literally you create all of the pieces and they all get stuck together. And then you can just add your funky little designs onto the head and whatnot. All of the puppets are created by teams over the world. It's obviously Yakwanda's designs, and they created the first lot of herd puppets. But each place that they go to, there are brand new puppets. So in London, there was a team at the University of Wimbledon. There was also a team at the University of Creative Arts Farnham who created some brand new puppets for London, and they're just wonderful. We had some wolves, which they've not had anywhere else yet. But more about that later, and I was so excited to tell you how I actually did manage to get that head. Alongside the Yakwanda team who are travelling the whole way, there is a group of brilliant people called ECO, and they are the Emerging Company. The Emerging Company is made up of artists, puppeteers, creative people from all over the world. And when I say all over the world, I mean all over the world. People from the UK, the US, Chile, Austria, South Africa, and that is just a few of them. There's even one girl from Japan. She's a legend. They are going on the whole 9-week tour with The Herds, and they look like they're having a blast. I'm kind of jealous that I wasn't with them for the whole 9 weeks. They have learned so, so much, and they were there to help teach us about things as well and give us loads and loads of advice. I think the most amazing thing about them being there for the whole 9 weeks is that they can really get deep down with these puppets and really get to know them. And because there's so many different animals that got to work across the board, but because we were only there for 1 week, we didn't quite have the opportunity to really hone our skills at every single animal, but we did what we could. Now, how did I get involved in this project? It's a great question. I actually saw a post on Instagram about it, and I saw the puppets, and I just thought I need to have a little look into this because they are some of the most beautiful puppets I've ever seen. So I had a little deep dive, and pretty quickly I decided this is absolutely something that I want to do. So I applied through the form online, and they set up a Zoom call with me. We had a little chat, and then I waited a week or so and got confirmed a place. What I was part of was the city participants for London, and we were a group of people that joined Yaquanda and Eco for the London stint, which was from the 23rd to the 29th of June 2025. We had 3 days of training, 1 day of rehearsals, and then 3 days of shows from the Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. I was so excited, but I really didn't know what was about to happen because I knew there was going to be a fair amount of people, but I didn't realize there was going to be this many people. So on day one, I showed up for rehearsals at the National Centre for Circus Arts. I think that's what it's called, in Shoreditch in London. And it's obviously a place where people train circus skills. So it's a pretty cool place. I showed up and there was already loads and loads of people there. But I got myself signed in, and eventually we went through into the space. Because there was so many people, I think it was a touch overwhelming, and we didn't quite know, well, I didn't quite know who to speak to. But thankfully, there was one person there that I already knew. His name is Sam. He's brilliant. And we worked on a show together a few years ago. So I kind of just went straight over to him, and he introduced me to some of his friends because Sam knows everyone. He went to East 15, and there was loads of people from East 15 there. East 15 is a drama school, but they have a course in physical theatre and stage combat, which are very specific things. And these people are everywhere, and they're always working, and they're just some of the best people in the industry. So it was great to quickly get to chat to some of these people even before we had started the day. After that, we had a quick introduction, little safety talk, everything like that. And then we all got in a big circle, and I'm talking a big circle, and we all individually introduced ourselves one at a time around this circle. And when it got to me, I don't even know what I did. I think I just said, I'm Joseph. I'm an actor, musical theatre performer, puppeteer, and creature performer. But it was hard to learn about everybody that quickly, and I knew I was going to forget everybody's names. So talking to people later was super important because I was never going to remember like 100 people's little bio that quickly. After that, we did a warm up, and I think warm ups are so important because it gets everybody connected all together. You just breathe in together, you get into the focus of things. And with puppets, that's so important because you really are working as an ensemble, especially when there's more than one of you on a puppet. It's also really important to warm up because puppetry is really tough on the body. So if you don't warm everything up, you could get injuries. And it's the same, you need to cool down after. Do your stretches and whatnot after, because then when you wake up the next morning, your body won't hurt as much. I was excited because after that we were going straight back into the basics of puppetry, and you always learn something when you do this. It doesn't matter how many puppets you've worked with, you're always going to learn something by going back to the basics, because there was loads of people there who actually had never done any puppetry before, and I think that is just amazing. They're just putting themselves in that place, and by the end of the week, you bet they were puppeteering those animals through central London. We were doing the classic stuff with paper where you create a little, not even an animal, just this creature with the paper, and we were working on focus, breath, weight, all the principles of puppetry. And I think it was great to just go back to the basics, and I know I learned something from that, which is amazing. As I said, socializing with people is so important in these scenarios, so I made sure that I went with where most people were going during the lunch, and we went to some little park. Because again, there was so many people, I was struggling to know where to place myself and who to speak to, but everybody was so interesting all week. And it's sad that I didn't get to speak to everyone because I genuinely just wasn't time. You know, you have like a quick hi, but I didn't get the opportunity to really like go deep into what everybody does, but I've got them all on social media, so we can do that later. After lunch, we did some improv work with the puppets. Again, learned loads. Great to watch everybody else. Some super talented people there. But now we get right down into how we're going to do these puppets in London. We get into little groups of 3 and we sort of just hold each other's shoulders and we're working through the commands that we're going to be using on the days. The first command was hamba, and that meant walk. So we just walk slowly, slowly, slowly. And then if you get Nima, you stop. Booyah, go backwards. Washa, run. Chica, turn around. Chica, chica, turn her all the way around. So like Chica's just 180, Chica, Chica is 360, as I heard this is. And then you've also got rear, which is obviously just rear. And then pivot, which means you just turn by yourself on the 180. I want to say by yourself, the puppet, because there's probably going to be more than one of you on the puppet. We then finally got to see a couple of the puppets and they just did a little demonstration for us. Unfortunately, we didn't get to touch them and I had to sleep before I could see them again. Oh, but they're just beautiful, just so, so beautiful and so beautifully made. That night, I actually went to a little meetup with the Curious School of Puppetry because they were holding a little event which was to welcome the herds because the eco team hadn't actually arrived yet because the day before they were in Paris. So they had spent that whole day traveling by bus to come and get to London, and eventually they arrived and it was so, so buzzing in this place, and I stayed all the way till late, like 10:30. It's not that late, but we had to be up early again for the next day rehearsals. And the first thing we did on that day, a warm-up obviously, but then the puppets were all there laid out and there was like zebras, wildebeests, oh, just so many cool things. And there was a little gazelle on the floor, I think. You just wanted to grab them, but you just had to leave them. You knew you were going to get to that in a bit. After the warm-up, we then did pair up, and when I say pair up, we got into 3s and started working on these puppets. I ended up with 2 girls, one girl called Isabel and one girl called Pip. Little did I know, these are the people I was going to spend the rest of the week with, and that was one of the best things that happened. We grabbed a zebra and we were working on the zebra. I was on the hind legs, so doing all of that. The zebra is quite big and I'm quite small, but so is Isabel and Pip. I think they're both like 4'10" or 4'11". And we were struggling a little bit with the zebra. Not too much, but a little bit. And we had now seen some other animals appear, like the gorillas and the lions. And we thought, this is what we want to try. Something a bit lower to the floor, something which might suit us a little bit better. We did manage to get a quick go on the gorilla. And then after lunch, we spent a whole time working on the lions. They are so heavy. They are so heavy. Everything looks so easy, but it's not. They are really, really challenging. And right at the end of the day, we just thought, you know what, let's go down and see what else is knocking about. There might be another animal or 2 around. And we thought, let's just go on this wildebeest. There, it was the only animal that didn't have anybody on it. And the wildebeest is big. But we made it work, and actually we think it was easier than the zebra. Obviously we would have made the zebra work, but we thought the wildebeest just suited us a little bit better. At this point, we also had no idea what animal we were going to end up with for the performances because we were just trying so many different animals and nothing was really being explained. But I get it, it's an extremely tough logistical challenge and everybody's working on loads of different animals and some people aren't available for some events, so the pairings have to be pretty good. But as soon as we went into the next day, they were like, people that want to work on gorillas go to this room, people that want to work on lions go to this room, people that want to work on zebras and wildebeests and red deer go to this room. So we went straight over to the gorilla room because out of all of the things we did the day before, the gorilla was just working the best for us. we then got straight into this gorilla. We're like really working at it, and I'm on the back legs. Boom, 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 boom. And its leg falls off from the knee downwards, which was so annoying. but this happens, and they know that this happens all of the time. The gorilla that we were actually using at the time, he's called Fiddy, like 50 Cent. And he was the first gorilla to be made. Gorilla number 1, so he is super, super fragile. So he got sent off, and it did mean that we then had to like share, I think, one gorilla between like 4 groups. Maybe it was 2. I'm not sure. But it meant that we didn't get so much time on the gorilla. But Fiddy came back later in the day, which was great. And then right at the end of the day, we then spent some time with all of the animals together. Firstly, giving it a go as how the herds are going to be. Of course, because Fiddy was still out, I think at this point, he had to have... No, there were still too many groups of gorillas, but Fiddy was back. There was 2 gorillas, but 3 gorilla groups. So we didn't have an animal when we were working in the herd, but we were still there to work with the commands and whatever. We then did get Fiddy back, and we're working on pivots. Unfortunately, during that, Isabel was now on the back legs, and Fiddy's foot fell off. So Fiddy was broken again, unfortunately. But we were assured that there would be another gorilla for us the next day, which was our like full big rehearsal day. This big rehearsal day was mammoth. We showed up at the Queen Elizabeth Park, which is the Olympic Park in London, because we were rehearsing in their big car park there, because it's one of the only places that is big enough. So I drove in and I parked and I went down, and the place was huge. And of course, we had a briefing, what the day is going to be doing, and we then just started getting delegated our puppets. And it was at this point that we were going to find out which puppet we were going to be with for the rest of the week. Now, we did have a little bit of complication here, because there were some new puppets that had arrived, which were the wolves. And one of the eco members who had been working with us, a beautiful girl from Italy, asked us if potentially we might be interested in working on a wolf instead of a gorilla. And we were open. We were totally open. The only thing is, we had been spending at least the last day working on this gorilla and getting really good at it. So we'd have to start from the beginning again with the wolf, which is absolutely fine, and I did not mind. But other people volunteered for the wolves, so we did actually end up with a gorilla, and he was the saddest looking gorilla in the entire world. Now, not all of the animals had been named, but all of the gorillas had been named, and we found out that this gorilla was called Sado because he looked so sad. And fair, he actually was a really, really sad gorilla. But it was so exciting to have this gorilla, and this was the one we're going to be working with, so we could really start to get used to what he's going to be like. We then spent this day as a herd just walking and walking and walking, going through the instructions up and down. But of course, before we did all of that, we had a warm-up. Again, I do think warm-ups are so important. It really gets you like together as a team, and I love a warm-up. I love it, gets me really focused. We then got on this gorilla and just started going for it. We would really use every minute of our time to feel it, breathe it. You know, we wouldn't stand around chatting too much. We really want to get this gorilla looking real. Then we started working as a herd. The giraffes had arrived. There was an elephant, but I don't think the elephant came out that day at all, actually. Not until the shows. The giraffes were there. They're massive. The kudus were there. They're huge, because all of these puppets are life size, which is just phenomenal. And yeah, so we're walking along. And this is what we did the entire day. Some dancers actually came along from Sadler's Wells because on the Sunday we were doing a performance through Stratford with these dancers from Sadler's Wells. We weren't actually interacting with the dancers, but the eco team were. So the eco team were rehearsing with them separately whilst we were working on our puppets, which was great. We did actually manage to find some time this day to have a little go on the Vivettes as well, which are super, super cool. And there was this awesome little armadillo looking thing as well. Towards the end of that day, we got told that we need to learn how to make our animals die because this was going to be a big part of the performance in Soho on the Friday. We got told that the animals aren't going to be shot. It's more about the animals being exhausted, hungry, elderly, because the whole point of the animals dying is to show that, you know, they're fleeing from these places and they have nothing left. So we workshopped this a fair amount and found a safe way to get the puppet to the floor. Of course, we know these puppets are fragile because we've already unfortunately broken one twice. So getting it to floor in a safe way as well as a realistic way was important. But we got there eventually, and it was quite a it was a sad moment for Sado. It felt quite real, which is obviously the plan. Towards the end of the day here, I was thinking, gosh, we've got to be up at 2 a.m. in the morning. So as soon as that day finished, I went straight home and got into bed, ready for a 2 a.m. start. I woke up at 1:45 and I left at 2 a.m. straight to Tower Bridge. I drove all the way to Tower Bridge and parked. People who lived closer to central London than me got taxis. It just wasn't going to work for me because I lived a little bit too far out. But I was happy to drive in, and it was quite a peaceful drive. It's early in the morning. But I arrived and we were actually having our green room at the Tower of London, which was so cool. I really didn't spend much time there. It was so early that I was a bit out of it, right? Of course, because it's so early in the morning. But I was genuinely so excited to be crossing Tower Bridge. It's one of the coolest things ever. Unfortunately, though, one of the gorillas hadn't arrived, so we had to swap back onto Fiddy for this event, which is super fine because one of the eco team took Sado. It was a different gorilla that arrived, but because that eco team was going to be right at the front, they wanted to make sure that one of the best gorillas was there, and of course Sado is one of the best gorillas. But we had Fiddy, and everyone also got radios so that we can be like spoken to know what's going on. Unfortunately, there wasn't enough radios, so we didn't get one until right as we were about to go onto Tower Bridge, but it wasn't working. It didn't matter though, because this Tower Bridge event was just being filmed for the press, so we could just follow the crowd, and it was quite easy to negotiate. There wasn't big crowds of people around, so there was nothing to like worry about in terms of safety or anything like that. We were okay, and we really understood what was going on. The road got shut at exactly 5 a.m. and we went on to Tower Bridge. We went on to Tower Bridge and we were on Tower Bridge for exactly an hour. I think we were off there by 5:57 because the bridge then got opened again at 6 a.m. It was so cool. I can't even explain how awesome that really was. We're on Tower Bridge with this herd of beautiful animal puppets going along. You know how it is? Right near the end, though, unfortunately, both of Fiddy's feet fell off. Obviously. So he did unfortunately have to go to the hospital. And I really mean that. Like, they have a animal hospital for the puppets. Because they need to be repaired because so many of them do get damaged because of course they're so fragile. Um, After that event, we actually went to the Bridge Theatre, which was our green room, because it was so early in the morning. They did get us some breakfast, and everybody was just asleep in the foyer of the Bridge Theatre, which was quite an experience. And you bet I definitely had a nap. I definitely had a nap. I was also waiting to see what was going to happen with Fiddy. There was obviously someone there fixing the puppets, but there was a fair amount of things that needed to be done. Fiddy did actually get fixed. During that time, though, there was also a huge press event going outside the front of the Bridge Theatre. I went out to have a little look. Some of the eco team were. There was a gorilla out there. I think there was giraffe, kudu. It looked amazing. So I just went and admired these puppets for a bit. But yeah, Fiddy got fixed, but unfortunately, they were just like, we probably shouldn't use him. So the team that were on Sado for the Tower Bridge event moved on to, I think, a baboon or something, a different animal. So we had Sado again for the next event. And this event was in this outside space. It's like this outside theatre. I completely forget what it's called, but it's right by the Bridge Theatre and Tower of London. And we did a little walkthrough first and got told what was going on. There was going to be a group of children from the Unicorn Theatre singing for us and also feeding us some food items that they have made out of cardboard, which was really cute actually. And I was not expecting to actually get any food. It never crossed my mind though that we need to learn how to accept the food. But thankfully, one of the other gorilla teams let us know that we probably should learn how to do this. So we did. And thankfully we did, because we did actually get fed. I think what was an apple? I think it was an apple. I actually really enjoyed this event. It was so short. It was maybe 10 to 20 minutes. And our gorilla was just laying over the top of this thing, looking down at the kids, singing. But then we went round and got fed, and it was beautiful. It was very hectic though. I think this was the first one where we had a crowd, so it was interesting to see how busy it gets. We did have a working radio for this one. Pip's boyfriend Bryn is part of the eco, and so he just gave us his radio for that event, and it worked a treat. So we knew what was going on the whole time. Sometimes not having communication can be challenging, but we'll always make it work anyway. After that event, we had a long break. I got myself some Itsu, which was so nice. And then the best event in the world was coming up. I cannot explain how excited I was for this event. I'd actually looked through the minute by minute schedule the night before, and oh my gosh, it was a long event, but I knew it was going to be fun. We were traveling through the West End with our puppets. Through the West End with our puppets.
We are the ones we've been waiting for!
We did an entire walkthrough first of where we were going. We went past the Cambridge Theatre and Matilda, where we went past Harry Potter and the Cursed Child, the Palace Theatre, that is. We started in Soho Square and we ended in Somerset House. We then obviously got prepped at Soho Square. My mum actually was at this event, which was amazing. She followed us the whole way. It was awesome to have someone there to witness it. I actually had the radio for this event, and having the radio is definitely a task in itself because you are just being given these commands constantly through your ear. And the alerts weren't always for everyone. Sometimes they were only for a group of people. So it was important to figure out when you need to say these things to your team because you don't want to be constantly speaking to them and confusing everybody. So you only need to say what you need to say to them when it's actually important for them to know how we're going to continue maneuvering this puppet. Like if they say stop, I don't need to tell them. I'll just make the puppet stop. But if we need to washar, which is run, I need to tell them because that's otherwise they're just going to keep walking with the puppet. And we need to know that we're washaring and not walking. But having the radio was interesting and actually really, really fun. It's not the first time I've had a radio for a big event. I did something at Wembley Stadium a few years ago and we had radios for that. But being in charge, there was definitely some pressure, but it worked no problem. And I actually really enjoyed having the radio, and Pip ended up giving me the radio for the rest of the events that week. We got Sado and we started prepping, did a little warm up, all of that. And it was time to go. This was a 1 hour 20 event and these puppets are heavy. So we had to make sure that we paced ourselves. Definitely. And I think it was important as a team as well that we kept checking in on each other. Thankfully, as you were going along, there was Yukwanda and some eco who weren't on puppets floating around in case anybody needed to hop off of their puppets. They could hop on for a couple of minutes to give a quick break and then you could hop back on, which I think probably saved quite a lot of people because it was an hour 20. Off we went and instantly the crowds were quite big. So it was important that we genuinely stayed as close to each other as we possibly could. We travelling down and we get to Seven Dials, which is where the Cambridge Theatre is, and I start hearing the music that the Matilda cast are singing. The Matilda cast were there singing When I Grow Up. And this was such a special moment for me. I love that show. It's just wonderfully beautiful. And as soon as I heard that music, like I just felt this feeling through my body. But here I am with a puppet and I need to concentrate. So I did. There's cameras everywhere as well, pointing in your face, so you don't want to get anything too wrong. Of course we're not, and I'm super focused. I really genuinely, truly care about my craft, and I want to make sure that I do the best job for the viewers and for the company as well. So we go around there, and we are travelling. It's a lot. There's some beautiful monologues. There's one from Romeo and Juliet, one from Midsummer Night's Dream, and then we finish at Somerset House. We get these puppets into Somerset House. Bear in mind, we've been going for an hour now. We're quite exhausted here. And we go in and then we just start going around in a circle and there's just people everywhere. And it genuinely felt like I was in the Roman Colosseum. It genuinely felt like I was in the Roman Colosseum. I cannot explain it. The atmosphere that I felt in that moment was unlike anything I'd ever felt in my entire life. And then we hear the cue. Group 1, die. And we're in group 1. So it's time to put Sado to sleep. And we do it. Sado has a very, very slow death and takes their last really, really deep breath. And we just sort of sit there looking at this gorilla, just breathing together, and then everyone gets up and leaves the crowd, just leaves and walks out of the crowd, and all that's left in the centre are the gorilla puppets and all of the other puppets. There was an applause, and then we get told to go back and pick up our puppets and leave. So we just pick up our dead animal puppets and walk out, and there's this silence throughout the audience because I don't think they were quite expecting that level of deep emotion. It was overwhelming. It was really overwhelming. And to think that puppets can make you feel that way, in my opinion, is so beautiful. I described that moment as one of the top 5 moments of my entire life. I just lay for a few moments after that performance because it really, really made me feel. It really made me feel. And I think that connection as a huge ensemble of people, you know, like 100 of us puppeteering these puppets through London, and then just them dying because of climate change, I guess, is tough. It's really tough. And puppets can show tough things. They're not just there for comedy, you know? That was really special. And then we just went and got some drinks at South Bank Centre, which is a really nice place, actually. Saturday, we didn't have to be until a lot later, but there was this event happening during the day in Camden, and I thought, I'm not doing anything, I'll go and see it. So I head over to Camden, and it's so busy already. But I wait around for about half an hour, and these two koodoos come out and start having a battle against each other in the streets of Camden, which was awesome. It was so awesome. There was this lady playing this electric guitar, and these two koodoos were just battling it out against each other, which was just so cool. Then I just went to St James's Park and just chilled for a bit because the last event on the Saturday was in St James's Park. They were doing this night safari where basically people will go around St James's Park with torches and try and find these animals who are hidden around the park. I didn't know what this was going to be like, but it was so sick. What happened was we got put into our places. Our gorilla genuinely got put in a nettle bush behind a fence, really hidden. Thankfully, there was more than 3 puppeteers to the puppet, so we were able to swap around because it was 2 hours long, this event. And it was like super dark as well, but it meant that people could have a break because 2 hours is a long time. And if people were getting too fatigued, unfortunately, that wouldn't be the best thing for the show and for the humans, obviously. I started not on the puppets. It was still a little bit lighter this time, so I just wanted to stay out of the way because I didn't want it to look like I was involved in the show. But people were coming along and they looked like they're having a great time. I then hopped on the puppets, and it was so cool to be genuinely spooked by these flashlights. I really felt like I was, as the 3 of us on the puppet were actually able to react real time to what was happening. And I think you don't need to speak to each other. The breath and the feeling between all 3 of you informs how the puppet reacts to whatever's going on, which is super cool. I also obviously took this moment to grab a little bit of footage for the show reel because I'm always thinking about the career. But I did get some beautiful footage, which is absolutely perfect. It's so cool because you're just in a bush, which I guess is where gorillas are. So you can't not take this moment to get some videos, obviously. It then got so dark, and we thought that the last group would come along, but I was like, oh my gosh, no, I actually want to see what this looks like with the torch. Because I didn't go on at the beginning and then I stayed on. But I was like, look, I'm going to hop off, someone else hop on because I want to see what it looks like. And I actually managed to see what the puppet looks like in the dark with the torches, and it looked so real. It looked like a genuinely real gorilla. It was awesome. It was awesome. But because we weren't the last group on the tour, it meant that once we finished, we could quickly go and have a look at some of the other animals. So we managed to see the lions and the giraffes. I think that was it, because no, that couldn't have been it, because there was 3 after us. Either way, super, super awesome. What a great event. It did finish late though, at 11:30. So I had to go straight home. I would have loved to have actually gone to that event and gone through the whole safari. But I was saying as well, like, this could genuinely be a business idea. Like, why is no one doing this full time at like a amusement park, a puppet safari, where it's not real animals but puppets? Because trust me, it looked so cool. I would pay good money to go to an event like that. The last event though was the one through Stratford. This was on the Sunday, so I arrived at Sadler's Wells East, because that's where the dancers are from, and that was our green room. Went through stage door, which is super awesome. And then we had a quick walk through half of the event, because that was all we had time for, I think. But we arrived at the starting point, and this was our last event, so it was sad to see it go, but I was excited to just get my hands on these puppets again. We obviously went and got Sado and had a little warm up again. So important. Trust me, I think it elevates what you do when you do a good warm up. We had our last briefing and off we went. We started this journey through Stratford. These dancers were with us the entire time from Sadler's Wells, and they were giving really animalistic movements, so we were able to react in real time to these to the dancers, that is, and obviously the other animals. It was so hot that day. I think it was 30 degrees, which is hot for even me, and I don't get that hot. So I made sure I had loads of water before, loads, because I knew it was going to be tough, because it was all in like the direct sunlight as well. But it's worth it because it's for the puppets. This particular event just had this energy between me, Isabel, and Pip. I felt like we were really starting. Well, not. I think we were at this point. We were so comfortable in how the puppet feels between us, and our teamwork just felt so slick. Bear in mind, it's only been a week, and if you were in a show, you'd have done like a 6-week rehearsal process at least. So to have only have done 1 week, bear in mind, I think we were only on the gorilla for like 4-5 days overall out of all of that. I just felt really connected with these girls at that point. Yeah, this gorilla was just moving so smoothly, and it just we could just know exactly what was going on at all times, which is brilliant. One thing I did have with me though, actually, also because my fingers were starting to hurt a little bit, was these little finger pad things that I put on my fingers, and it just stops them from hurting. A lot of people like tape up their hands and stuff, but because there was only like a small little pressure point that was hurting on each of like the wooden sticks on the gorilla arms, it wasn't too bad for me. I actually didn't find that this gorilla hurt too much, except my back. My back was killing, but possibly my fault for not having the best posture. But that's definitely something I could work on. Put more of the weight into my knees, which I should definitely be doing. But we finished this one in Stratford, and it was time to say bye to Sado. We literally put him away back in his coffin. And when I say coffin, just his cardboard box to then get transported to the next location. We then went and met the elephant because the elephant was still out, and there was just this beautiful moment where we were just chanting with everyone.
We are the Herds!
We are the Herds!
It felt really uplifting, and being with all of these people who had just achieved such a wonderful thing over the last 3 days was just incredible. The most beautiful thing though is that the company treated us to pizzas, and we all got to spend a few more hours together after the event in the Olympic Park. Whilst we were at the park having our pizza, one of the guys came over. His name is Max. He was also a city participant for London, and he came over with this zebra head. And I was like, that is the coolest thing ever. How have you got that? Unfortunately, his zebra died en route, and so had to be put into the dead animal truck, which is tough. And these are for puppets which were beyond repair. The head he had wasn't actually his zebra head, but it was a different one that was in there because apparently, you know, it's the truck for the dead animals and they're not coming back. So you might as well take the head. And I was like, that is the coolest thing ever. I'm so sad I don't have one, but that's awesome. Then we literally had a goodbye. It was a goodbye because the Eco team and Yaquanda were hopping on a bus straight up to Manchester that night, ready to start the next week, the next day. So we had to say bye to everyone. I think because there's so many people, you didn't get to say bye to everyone. But I try my best to do what I can. And I'd spoken to as many people as I could over the week. Some super interesting people, genuinely super, super lovely people. After that, I did head to the pub. And while I was there, Max came back with this for me, and apparently like so many people had asked him for it, and he gave it to me. Like, how do I have my hands on one of the heads that was used in the actual Herds? What I am going to do though is make one new ear because they're missing one, and then I'm going to put that on display in my house. And I think it's something that's going to stay with me forever and ever and ever, as is this beautiful memory of the Herds. It was genuinely one of the most uplifting weeks of my life. I really didn't know what to expect. I think I learned so much more as a puppeteer. Really getting a good amount of time to work with a couple of girls, Izzy and Pip. There was just this connection that got there, and as I said, this puppet just came to life. It just really came to life. And I think what's so important is having that communication between whatever puppeteers on the puppet, especially, of course, if you're on a puppet with more than one puppeteer. If you're by yourself, don't lose the fundamentals because you can get lazy. But if there's more than one of you, really communicate, really feel that breath, really spend as much time on that puppet as you can outside of performances, because it's going to create great puppetry during the performances because you know how the puppet moves. It's important to really just feel everything about that puppet. I am so excited to see where the Herds goes in the future. Of course, Little Amal, which the walk did before, went all over the world, even after it had finished its initial run. So I'm intrigued to see where the herds go moving forward. Beautiful puppets, beautiful people, a beautiful event. We got to travel Tower Bridge. We went through the West End and through Stratford. I met some phenomenal people, and it was one of the best things I've ever done. Puppets are great. If you've ever thought about doing some puppetry, do it. At the pub, I did have to say goodbye to Pip, which was quite a sad one because we had spent nearly the whole week together. The herds was over, and I want to say a huge thank you to Nazir, our artistic director, Craig, our puppetry director, all of the other participants, all of the eco lot, all of the coordinators, and everybody who was there to help us through the week, and all of the audience who obviously came and watched the performances, and anyone who's seen any footage about it online and on social media. It was a gorgeous event, and I'm so glad I did it. Please follow me and subscribe to me to see what I get up to in the future, because some exciting things are coming, and I am so excited to be sharing all of that with you. Thank you so much for watching, and I cannot believe I've got one of the actual heads from the herds. Bye.